continuing with Infinity here. Oh, A View to a Kill. I remember seeing this. Now you gotta understand, man. To me, by the time I was a kid going into the movie theaters, James Bond was Roger Moore. Okay, he gets a lot. People rip on him. Connery's great, but to me, James Bond, okay, was Roger Moore. Okay, because when you saw Roger Moore and other things, there was the TV show, The Saint, that they used to show on WOR. Okay, it was very similar. Okay. Oh, and of course, this is the last film with him as Bond. Right? It's interesting. You had this maniac and this maniac as the villains. Okay, very difficult. Apparently, behind the scenes, very difficult to work with Mr. Moore, who's already 57 at this point. He looked pretty good for his age. Right? Shot in Paris. Right? We'll always have Paris. Well, no, we won't, will we? And of course, and San Francisco, apparently, on the Golden Gate. But it's interesting how originally this villain, they wanted David Bowie or Sting to be the villains, but they both declined. Both great actors, by the way. Rock stars who seamlessly carried over into acting, Sting and David Bowie. But this guy was, this was before he was super psycho actor. It became a shtick, right? I remember Patrick McGee he was such a great actor too. But apparently Moore had some problems with the very difficult Grace Jones. Apparently she was kind of attacked. I don't know if it was attacked literally, attacked a talk show host, and always playing her music loud. It actually got this guy to the point where he went in and like ripped the stereo plug out of the socket. Interesting. Not amused. You're supposed to be professional, but and of course we have Duran Duran, Real View to a Kill. I have a funny story real quick about Duran Duran that has nothing to do with Duran Duran. One day my mother tells me, "Oh, the drummer from Duran Duran, his arm got cut off in a car accident." She heard it from the radio. So I'm like, 'cause that's where you got your news, instant news back then was the radio. I was like, oh, so I told this bitch fucking neighbor of mine, girl, was older than me. I said, yeah, the drummer from Duran Duran got his arm cut off. And she was like, no, he didn't. And then the next day she was like, it was the guy from Def Leppard, you stupid idiot. I remember that. So I was like, damn. I mean, my mother, she didn't know Duran Duran from Roberto Duran. So, but whatever, that was the story. Yeah, and like I said, like how the writer here agrees with something I said right off the bat. Roger Moore again was far better actor than he is. Many critics gave him credit for. He was a great actor. What are you talking about? Right. He was also a terrific director. I didn't know that. He directed episodes of The Saint, right? And the other show he did, The Persuaders, I forgot. That was with somebody. They used to show these in America, believe it or not. Of course, all the great movies he was in, man. Rest in peace, Roger Moore. And like I said, he died in 2017. You were great, dude. And also, of course, the great poster. Alan always has a poster in Infinity. I'm gonna rip this out and put this on my wall. Yeah. Here's a suggestion, Alan. Do it for the dark side. Get some of those cool Japanese edition posters of like Hammer Films or Euro Horror with the kanji. This is a suggestion, mate. I'm going through John Carpenter real quick. I mean, literally the guy was studying when he was young. He wanted to be a musician and study music. He ended up somehow falling into filmmaking. And this guy literally made probably 8 or 9 or maybe 10 of the best films ever made. Okay. So now, like, sort of the golden years of his life, he's gone back to music, and he's got 4 volumes of this. I need to check this out. And it's cool, too, that in the band, right, his son-in-law and his son are in the band. So when this guy passes away, dude, it'll be like when Christopher Lee passed. Because you don't really... The problem is when someone passes away, you want someone to pass the torch on. Well, we don't really have that. Maybe Eggers, but anyway. What's the Lone Ranger? My dad was reading through this. He goes, oh, the guy who played Tonto lived on Ocean Parkway in Brooklyn. I go, oh, all right. I take your word for it. This is the film Mother Riley Meets the Vampire. I haven't seen this, but I want to watch this. Always heard about it. Okay, it's one of the last films of Bella. Bella was in bad shape financially. Obviously, there was a disastrous run in the West End with the revival of Dracula, which ironically was where the original play, which brought him to stardom, had taken off, right? And so to get back, he needed money, so he did this film with this comedy actor, okay, coming out of the British version of vaudeville. I mean, it's the same thing, music hall, right? Very populist sort of entertainment for the masses. Right there, he is fetching. Look at that, that's a cool ass suit. Is that tweed? Anyway, so the husband wife act, okay, where she was the mother, he was the grandmother, Mother Riley. Okay, obviously an Irish mother, but sort of like working class, and this is the populism, right? The working class audience, kind of taking the piss a little bit out of the upper classes in the comedy, which I like, by the way. So. But of course, life became a drag, and I keep telling you. And look, in the days of gender bending, fluidity, and ambiguity, right? It's as well to remind ourselves that there's nothing new under the sun. Well, now in the modern context of drag, right? The term, at least for this, RuPaul and his drag race, David Bowie. I don't know why they bring up this Roman emperor. I mean, it's like in terms of like I keep saying, drag is part of it's a gag. It was something done as part of a comedy act. The majority of guys, not all, but the majority of guys putting on dresses, whether as old ladies or as young ladies, it was done as a comedy act, and they were like straight men, probably womenizers. Obviously, they were married. The marriage didn't last, but the act lasted longer than the marriage did. But this is interesting when you see how in this it's a repressed society. You had in Philly, you had the Mother's Day parade where guys were dressing up as geishas. There's all the photo of that. There's like 100 dudes dressed up as geishas in 1903, and these are guys are probably freaking longshoremen. It's a joke. It's a gag, right? You could argue that these people, RuPaul and them, appropriated drag from the straight comedy community, but it's a little more nuanced than that. So it's just something that's funny because when you look at history and you look at the reality of all kinds of things. And always the war. Hey, you start to see, wait a minute, there was nothing like that. And there was a lot of examples of things that were the opposite of that, but it doesn't exist. Hey. That's one of the problems, the downsides of the here and now. Okay, you know what I mean? So anyway, but I want to watch this film. Apparently there's a robot in here too. Yeah, you see, man, he was a tall dude, man. He was taller than Karloff by like a half an inch. So, and I love these old comedies. The old British comedies, I probably would like them because, early in the century, the British and Americans were probably more like each other than we are now. Or maybe they are like us now in all the bad ways. Anyway, I don't want to get too into that. I want to round it out. Of course, Lou Ferrigno. Okay, Lou Ferrigno's dad owned a health food store on the corner where my dad lived in the 70s and the 80s in Brooklyn on Bay Parkway. Also, there was a judo school there, Mr. Sheena, who was one of the original judo Olympians. What a cool dude he was. And of course, Jerry the Butcher on the corner. Okay, Jerry the Butcher, I think, and his brother. And my dad would take me in there, and my dad would he thought it was funny to say, "Hey, look at the slice, the slicer." He goes, "Yeah, how about if I put your fingers in there?" He thought that was funny. So, but one day when we were in the health food store, when my dad liked wheat germ for some reason, Lou Ferrigno was in there. Right? His dad owned the store. Very friendly guy, huge. Obviously, the Hulk was on TV at the time, so I guess he was taking a break from filming and came back to visit his father. So I don't want his father was a little rough on him. Of course, he was born with hearing loss, but man, nice guy. And his rival, right, Ahnuld, who aged better? Okay, he still looks great. Okay, now you can say, of course, Italian blood, right? It's nice having Italian blood, I'll tell you that. But all that aside, this is interesting because this deals with the 4 films that he did for Canon. Right? 2 of them were Hercules films, but there was one they did, like a 7 Gladiators, right? And also they did Sinbad, which I never saw, and I never saw the first one, but I saw these 2 movies in the theater, man. I saw them at the Alpine, right? If you remember what the Alpine was in Brooklyn. And it's interesting because you have Canon films, you have Golan Globus, you have Mahanam Glolan doing his usual yelling at everybody, telling people to shut up, and just almost have it look like ripping his hair out all the time with everybody. Also involved are mainly the Italians. Okay, I guess the Italian film industry was going through a transition, so they were working for these Israelis, So you get Luigi Cozzi, Enzo Castellari. You even had Claudio Fragasso and Bruno Mattei originally involved, but and someone who worked for Joe D'Amato. So these are all Italian horror guys, Italian genre guy names. But apparently, Ferrigno wanted to star in Hercules films, right? There were Hercules films were huge in the 60s and 70s. They were Italian films, but the guy who played Hercules, Steve Reeves, he was one of the early, or one of the, I don't know the exact history of it, but Steve Reeves was a famous bodybuilder. Like, sort of would be a hero to young Lou Ferrigno. So he wanted to do the Hercules films as like a homage to his idol, Steve Reeves, right? And they made a lot of those movies, dude. They used to show them all the time. It's sort of forgotten now, right? And so they show the craziness of it. Of course, he had hearing loss. It affected his speech somewhat, but it didn't make a difference. So the Italian films, like the Chinese films, they're all recorded without sound because they're all dubbed later. Now, when I was a kid, even watching this, I was like, okay, you know what? This film's a little, Luigi Cozzi. I always like to do stop motion. It's a little, even as a kid, I was like, all right, this is a little cheesy, right? Let me tell you something. I mean, with the gorgeous women, Sybil Danning, this one, the second one had the chick from Hell of the Living Dead in it. It had also, what is it? What's her name? Oh, yeah, Sonia Viviani in Nightmare City, right? So you had all these beautiful Italian Euro actresses and American actresses. It was just crazy. When he takes the bear kills his dad, remember? He takes the bear, he kills it, he throws it into space, and it becomes the constellation, Ursus. Right? Crazy, crazy movie. On Blu, you know what? I think with my Blu-ray player, my oldest boy, Nell, got me a Blu-ray of Godzilla minus one. I think my second Blu-ray is going to be these Hercules films. So, Lou Ferrigno, dude. You know what? In the long run, you were better than Ahnuld. Let's go back in time and change history, man. This guy should have won, not Ahnuld. Punk ass. So, and I never saw the Sinbad. So, and yeah. So once again, man, so much stuff in here. Oh look, the Last Starfighter. Oh, look, Jay Anderson's son. Oh, looks like one. Look at that. So, yeah, man. It's top notch, man. Top notch. Right. Oh, good job, Alan. Dude, you know what? I tell you, I don't know what to say. My dad read this. He enjoyed this magazine. You believe that? So it made last week tolerable. I'll leave it at that. Hasn't been a good couple of weeks. Not for me, but for a lot of people around me, health wise. I'll leave it at that. But anyway, recommend it.